All right, so get ready because today we are going a deep dive into the power of positive thinking.
Ooh, I like it. A deep dive.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So we're going to be talking about how, thinking those positive thoughts can actually have a major impact on your life.
Oh, yeah.
And not just like, your mood, but like your health, your relationships, how resilient you are, even your performance at work or school.
Yeah, and, the thing is that there is actually a ton of research backing this stuff up.
That's amazing.
It's pretty fascinating.
So it's not just like a bunch of fluff.
No, it's not just like wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Our thoughts really influence our feelings and actions, and we're going to, unpack all of that today.
Okay.
Using insights from the Happy English Learning Podcast.
Okay.
Their episode was called The Power of Positive Thinking.
Nice. Okay, so just to get started, what is positive thinking?
Right.
Is it just slapping on a fake smile and pretending everything's perfect?
That's a good question. I mean, not quite.
Okay.
It's more about having this mental attitude where you're focusing on the good in any situation. It's that saying, every cloud has a silver lining, right?
Right.
You're acknowledging the cloud, but choosing to focus on that little sliver of light.
So it's not denying the negative. It's more like just intentionally shifting your focus.
Yes, exactly. And this is actually where it gets really interesting.
Okay, so yeah.
The podcast hosts, they were Jason and Anna.
Okay.
They pointed out that positive thinking isn't about ignoring problems.
Oh.
It's actually it's almost the opposite. It's about approaching challenges with a mindset that's focused on solutions and opportunities for growth.
So it's like looking at a challenge as an opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of reframing it in your mind.
Yeah, and I can see how that could be super powerful because, if you're just dwelling on what's wrong all the time, it's hard to have the energy to actually make things better.
It is. You just get kind of stuck, right? Yeah, and this shift in perspective can actually have some pretty amazing benefits.
Oh, okay, like what?
To start, there's a ton of research that links positive thinking to, improved mental health.
Okay.
So we're talking, reduced stress and anxiety and fewer of those, negative thought spirals that can, really just drag us down.
Yeah, those are the worst.
I know, they are the worst.
Yeah, so that makes total sense to me, but besides just feeling happier, are there any tangible benefits to this?
Yes.
Does it impact our physical well-being too?
Absolutely. So there are studies showing that people who maintain a more positive outlook tend to have lower blood pressure.
Really?
Yeah, and even stronger immune systems.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, some research even suggests that they live longer.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's like having a secret weapon for a longer, healthier life.
So we're talking feeling better and potentially living longer.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about relationships?
Right.
Does positive thinking have anything to do with that?
Big time.
Oh. Good.
Think about it. Who are you more drawn to?
Yeah.
Someone who's constantly complaining or someone who radiates, positivity?
The positive person for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's their energy is contagious.
Oh, yeah. Totally is.
Positive people tend to attract other positive people. And so it's kind of like a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Which then leads to healthier and more supportive relationship.
Yeah, because you're surrounding yourself with people who are lifting you up.
Exactly.
Instead of bringing you down.
Instead of dragging you down.
Yeah. I'm starting to see how this all connects.
Right.
So we're talking about feeling better, being healthier, having better relationships.
Yeah.
But what about resilience?
Right.
Does it play a role there too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So positive thinkers, since they tend to view setbacks as learning opportunities rather than personal failures,
Okay.
they're able to bounce back from challenges more quickly.
So they're not going to be, like, stuck in a rut.
Yeah. Exactly. They can just pick themselves up and keep moving forward.
So they can keep going.
Exactly. And that resilience, combined with a more positive, can-do attitude, can lead to greater success in pretty much any area of life.
Okay.
Whether it's work, school, creative pursuits, personal goals.
This is starting to sound pretty amazing.
Right.
But I have to ask, like, how do we actually get this positive thinking muscle?
Right.
Like, it can't just be wishing for good things to happen, right?
You're right. It takes a little bit more than wishing.
Okay.
Luckily, Jason and Anna shared some really practical tips in the podcast that anyone can start using today. And one of the simplest and most effective is practicing gratitude.
Oh, okay. So like gratitude journals and stuff like that.
Yeah, it could be as simple as that.
Okay.
Like the key is just to take a few minutes every day to reflect on the things that you're thankful for.
Yeah.
No matter how big or small they are.
Okay.
Maybe it's like a delicious cup of coffee in the morning. Maybe it's a supportive friend, or even just the fact that you woke up healthy today.
Yeah, I could see how that would like shift your perspective.
Right.
Yeah, because it's so easy to just be caught up in all the bad stuff.
Exactly.
And forget about all the good things that are going on.
And building on that idea of like shifting your perspective, another powerful tool is this practice of reframing negative thoughts.
Okay, what does that mean?
Okay, yeah.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so let's say you're working on this challenging project, right?
Okay.
And you catch yourself thinking like, oh, I'm never going to figure this out, or I'm just not good enough.
Yeah, those are the thoughts that come up.
Right, right. So instead of dwelling on that negative thought, you can try to reframe it.
Okay.
You could say something like, okay, this is tough, but I'm learning and growing with each step. I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I can see how that subtle shift could make such a difference.
Yes.
Yeah, in your motivation and just how you look at it. It's like you're focusing on the progress instead of the setbacks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about training your mind to look for the positive even when things are tough.
Right. Yeah.
And another key strategy that they highlighted is surrounding yourself with positive people.
Okay.
Their optimism and their support can be so contagious.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you're constantly around negative people,
yeah,
it's going to be harder to stay positive.
It is.
It's like you're absorbing that negative energy.
Yeah, it's like osmosis almost.
Yeah.
Like we tend to pick up the habits and mindsets of the people that we spend the most time with.
Totally.
Yeah.
So if we want to be positive, we got to be around positive people.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then they also talked about the power of affirmations.
Okay.
You know, those positive statements you repeat to yourself to kind of like reprogram your subconscious mind. I know it can sound a bit woo-woo.
I was going to say, it does sound kind of...
It does.
Yeah.
But there's actually there's science behind it. So,
Says I have to admit, I'm a little skeptical about affirmations.
Right.
It just seems too simplistic. Like, how can just saying some words actually make a difference?
I get that. I totally get that. Well, think of it this way. Okay.
Okay.
Our thoughts create these neural pathways in our brain, right?
Okay.
And the more we think a certain thought, the stronger that pathway becomes.
Okay.
So if you're constantly having those negative thoughts, you're strengthening those negative pathways.
Right.
But by using affirmations, you're intentionally creating new positive pathways.
So you're like laying down new tracks.
They are. It's like laying down new tracks for your brain to follow.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. So even if you don't fully believe the affirmation at first,
right,
just the act of repeating it can start to shift your thinking patterns over time.
So it's about consistency.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they also mentioned visualization.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
like spending a few minutes each day visualizing like positive outcomes for your goals. Like this is a technique used by so many successful athletes.
I've heard of that.
And entrepreneurs, performers.
Yeah, I actually used to do that when I was training for a marathon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would visualize myself like crossing the finish line and like feeling really strong.
That's awesome.
And it really did help me like stay motivated.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
And there's this really cool story in the podcast about this dude. His name was Alex.
Okay.
And he was really struggling with low self-esteem and doing poorly in school.
Oh, no.
And he started using these affirmations.
Okay.
Setting these small goals and then like visualizing himself achieving those goals.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And slowly but surely, his grades started to improve.
Wow.
And his confidence just soared. It's like a perfect example of how these seemingly small mindset shifts can create like a ripple effect in other areas of your life.
That's really inspiring.
It is. It's very.
It shows that like you don't have to make these huge changes to start seeing those results.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's those little things that build up over time.
Exactly.
And they also shared a story about a company that was facing this major crisis.
Oh, wow.
And the CEO, instead of panicking, encouraged his whole team to focus on solutions and to believe in their ability to overcome that challenge.
So he like applied those principles of positive thinking to like a group setting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is that they, with this collective positive mindset, they not only overcame the crisis.
Wow.
But they emerged even stronger.
That's amazing.
And more innovative.
It's so cool.
It's like they turned that setback into an opportunity for growth.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not just about personal growth. It can also impact like, groups, teams, even whole organizations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff.
But I do have to ask, like, I imagine it's not always easy to stay positive.
Right.
Especially when you're going through something really tough. Are there, like, any downsides or, like, potential pitfalls to be aware of?
That's a great question, and it's something we're going to explore in more detail in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so stay tuned, listeners, because we're going to be talking about the challenges of staying positive.
Yes.
And we're going to bust some of those misconceptions about positive thinking.
Yeah.
And we'll have even more real-life examples of how it's made a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, we'll have more of those stories.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool.
So before we went to, before we were talking about how positive thinking can lead to some pretty amazing benefits.
Yeah. It can.
But you brought up a really good point. It's not always easy to stay positive.
Right.
Like, especially when life gets tough.
Yeah, it can be a real struggle.
Yeah, so I'm curious, like, what are some of the, challenges people face when they're trying to actually, be more positive, cultivate that positive mindset?
Well, I think one of the biggest hurdles is just consistency. Like, it's easy to be optimistic and, have that sunny outlook when things are going well.
Right.
But, like, what happens when you hit a major roadblock or you experience some kind of personal setback?
Yeah.
That's when it can be really tough to stay upbeat.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
It's like when you're feeling down, all those negative thoughts just kind of like take over.
They do. It's like they creep in and they just start to like dominate your thinking.
And they just spiral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for some people those negative thinking patterns have become like so ingrained over the years
Right.
that it feels almost impossible to like break free.
So it's not just like a switch you can flip.
No, it's like a default setting in their mind.
It's a habit.
Yeah, it is. It's a habit.
And so you got to break that habit.
You do, and it takes conscious effort and practice.
Right.
It's like building any new habit.
Yeah.
You have to be patient with yourself and keep working at it even when you have those setbacks.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
That's like learning an instrument or...
Exactly. It's like training for a marathon.
You're not going to be perfect overnight.
Exactly. You have to keep practicing.
And speaking of challenges,
Yeah.
I think it's important to like talk about some of the like common misconceptions
Okay, yeah.
about positive thinking.
Okay.
One of the big ones, I think, is that it means you're like ignoring reality.
Right.
And pretending that everything's perfect.
Okay.
Like, it can see how people might get that impression.
Right.
But it sounds like what we've established is that it's not about, like, denying the negative. It's more like acknowledging it.
Yeah.
But choosing to focus on the positive or the potential for growth.
Exactly. Yeah. Positive thinking doesn't mean like you bury your head in the sand.
Right.
And pretend like the problems don't exist.
You're not being delusional.
No, not at all. It's about facing those problems head on, but with a more hopeful and proactive attitude.
So it's like, where you put your energy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you going to focus on the problem, or are you going to focus on the solution?
Right.
And how you can like actually like move forward.
Okay.
And I think another misconception is that positive thinking alone can solve all your problems.
Right.
It's important to remember that it's a tool, but it's not a magic wand.
It's not gonna magically fix everything.
Exactly. You can think positive thoughts all day long.
Right.
But if you don't take any action, nothing's going to change.
It's like that saying, wish in one hand and crap in the other and see which one fills up first.
That's a good one. I like that one.
It's like you can think all these great things.
Yeah.
But if you don't actually like take steps to make those things happen.
Right.
Nothing's going to happen.
Exactly. Action is key.
Yeah.
Positive thinking can help you feel more motivated, more resilient, hopeful.
Yeah.
But it's up to you to take those feelings and translate them into concrete steps.
This reminds me of something that Jason and Anna talked about in the podcast, the importance of focusing on solutions.
Yes.
Instead of dwelling on problems.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, they shared some really, really practical tips for doing just that.
Okay.
Remember their advice about like shifting your internal dialogue.
Okay.
From what's wrong to what can I do to improve this?
Yeah, it's a subtle shift.
It is.
But I think it's really powerful.
It's so powerful. It can make a huge difference.
Because instead of feeling like stuck and helpless,
right,
you start to feel like you can do something about it.
Exactly. You're empowered.
Yeah.
You're not a victim of your circumstances.
It's a solution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're actively choosing to be part of the solution.
Okay.
Rather than just complaining about the problem.
Yeah. And they also emphasize the importance of breaking down like big goals into smaller steps.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's something that I struggle with, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get so overwhelmed
right.
by like the big picture
yeah.
that I'll just like procrastinate and like give up.
I get that. I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's so helpful about breaking things down into those smaller steps is that it makes the process feel less daunting, right? Feels more manageable.
Yeah.
And then each small win, like each step you take toward your goal, it kind of reinforces that positive momentum.
Yeah, so you're getting those like little wins.
You are, exactly. You're creating a series of mini victories that can keep you motivated and moving forward.
I like that.
Yeah, and those small wins can have a big impact on your overall mindset.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So before we were talking about some of the benefits of positive thinking, I'm curious, do you have any other like real life examples of how it's like made a difference in people's lives?
Yeah, well, one that really stuck with me was the story of Sarah, who lost her job.
Oh no.
And was feeling really discouraged.
Right.
But instead of spiraling into negativity, she chose to focus on what she could control.
Okay. What did she do?
Well, she started by just like taking some time to reflect on her skills and what she truly enjoyed doing.
Okay.
And then she reached out to people in her network and started exploring new opportunities.
So she like actually took concrete steps to move forward.
Yeah, she didn't just sit around and feel sorry for herself.
Yeah.
She took action.
Okay.
And while she was going through this process, she also actively worked on like reframing her negative thoughts.
Okay.
So instead of thinking, I'm a failure, she told herself, this is an opportunity for me to find a job that I'm truly passionate about.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a great reframe. Yeah.
And what happened?
Well, she ended up finding a new job.
Okay.
And what's interesting is that she ended up finding a job that was even better suited to her skills and her interests than the one she had lost.
That's amazing.
It was like the setback actually led her to something even better.
So even when it seems like something bad is happening, it could actually be like a blessing in disguise.
It could be, yeah. Sometimes these things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just about finding new jobs.
Okay.
Jason and Anna also shared a story about a student named Mark who was struggling in school.
Okay, was this the student who was using affirmations?
No, this was a different student. So Mark had a learning disability that made it really challenging for him to keep up with his classmates.
Right.
And he was starting to feel like he wasn't smart enough and that he would never like succeed academically.
That's so sad.
It is. Yeah, it can be really tough for students who have learning disabilities.
Yeah.
But he had this teacher who recognized his potential.
That's great.
And encouraged him to like focus on his strengths.
Okay.
And so she helped him develop strategies to like work around his challenges and celebrated his small victories.
So he had that support that he needed.
He did. He had a really supportive mentor who helped him see his own worth and potential.
That's so important.
It is. It's so important. And with her guidance and his own determination, he was actually able to graduate high school and go on to college.
Wow. That's incredible.
It is. It's a great story. And he even became a tutor, helping other students who are struggling with similar challenges.
Oh, that's awesome. He's giving back.
He is. Yeah, it's really inspiring to see.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that with the right support and a belief in yourself, you can overcome almost any obstacle.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's not just individual stories.
Right.
Like, remember the example of the company that was facing the crisis? Yeah. The CEO's positive leadership style. I mean, that really impacted the whole organization.
Yeah, it did. It had a ripple effect. And instead of getting bogged down in fear and negativity, they rallied together and found these like really creative solutions to the problem.
And they came out stronger as a result.
They did. Yeah, they did. It's like that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right.
But in this case, it wasn't just about surviving. It was about thriving.
It was about, coming out even better.
Exactly.
So it can impact individuals, teams, even entire organizations.
Absolutely. It can. And these examples really highlight another important point.
Okay.
Positive thinking is often about more than just thinking positive thoughts.
Okay.
It's about embodying a set of values and beliefs and behaviors.
Okay. I'm curious about that. What do you mean by that?
Well, think about the stories we've discussed.
Sorry.
Sarah didn't just sit around thinking positive thoughts.
Right.
She took action. She reached out to people. She learned new skills.
She put it into practice.
Exactly. And Mark's teacher didn't just tell him to be positive.
Wow.
She helped him develop those strategies
Right.
and celebrate his successes.
So it's about like backing it up with your actions,
Yeah.
not just your words.
Exactly. It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk. And the company's CEO, he didn't just tell his employees to be optimistic.
Right.
He modeled that behavior himself.
Yeah.
And created this culture of positivity within the organization.
So it's like living it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that we can all work on.
Yeah.
Whether we're trying to achieve personal goals, improve our relationships, or make a positive impact in the world.
That's great.
Yeah.
This has been such a good conversation.
It has.
I feel like I'm like understanding positive thinking in a whole new way.
Me too. It's fascinating to kind of delve into this and really see, you know, the science behind it.
Yeah. And all the different ways that it can like impact your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and it's not just about like, you know, feeling good. It's about taking action.
Right.
It's about like using that energy to actually like fuel your efforts.
Exactly.
And to make a difference in the world.
Absolutely.
I'm really starting to see how powerful this concept is.
It is powerful.
And, you know, as we've been talking, you know, it comes to mind that like, you know, consistency's key.
Yes, it is.
Like it's easy to be positive when things are good.
Yeah.
But when you're facing those challenges,
right,
that's when it's like the real test.
That's when it's the hardest.
Yeah.
But also, like, when it's the most important.
Right. So even if you're like, you know, feeling down, don't give up.
Don't give up. You gotta keep practicing those positive thinking techniques.
Yeah.
And over time, you'll notice that shift in your mindset.
Okay.
You will. I promise.
You start to feel more resilient.
Yes.
More optimistic.
Yes.
And just like better equipped to handle whatever comes your way. And I think it's really important, like they said in the podcast, like those small steps can lead to big changes.
Absolutely.
So even if you're not like, you know, doing all the things all at once, you know, just start small.
Start small. Incorporate one or two of those tips into your daily routine.
Yeah, like the gratitude.
The affirmations, the reframing of negative thoughts.
Surrounding yourself with those positive people.
Exactly. And those small changes can have this like ripple effect on your whole life.
Yeah, and as you start to like experience those benefits firsthand, you're going to be amazed by how powerful
you will.
It is.
It's pretty amazing.
This has been such a good conversation.
It has.
I feel really inspired.
Me too.
And like ready to take action.
Yes, absolutely. And we hope you feel the same way, listeners.
Yeah.
Remember, positivity is a choice.
It is.
And it's a choice we can make every single day.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time. So we've been talking about the power of positive thinking.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff.
And how it can impact not just our own lives, but like, you know, our relationships and even the world around us.
And you know what? It's interesting how often this idea of a ripple effect comes up.
Oh, yeah.
Like when we choose positivity, it's not just about us. You know?
Yeah.
It influences how we interact with others, the energy we bring to different situations, and ultimately the kind of change we can create.
It makes me think back to that story we talked about, the company that was facing a crisis.
Oh, right. Right.
And it wasn't just the CEO who had to stay positive.
Yeah, it was the whole team.
It was everyone.
It was a collective effort.
Yeah.
And think about the outcome. They
Right.
didn't just, like, weather the storm.
Yeah.
They came out stronger and more innovative.
Yeah, it's like when you have that shared belief that things are going to be okay, especially when you're facing a challenge.
Yeah, it's incredibly
It's
powerful.
like super powerful. And even on a more personal level, like imagine approaching your everyday interactions with a more positive attitude.
Yeah.
Like it could be as simple as giving someone a genuine compliment.
Right.
Or just like really listening to someone when they need to talk.
Yeah. I mean, those small acts of kindness can have a surprisingly big impact.
They really can.
When we approach others with warmth and understanding, it just sets a different tone.
Yeah, it's like you're setting the vibe.
You are.
And it can be contagious,
It can.
Like it can inspire them to pay it forward.
Absolutely. It's like we're creating this chain reaction of good vibes.
I love that.
Not just for ourselves, but for the people around us as well.
And it also makes me realize how important it is to be mindful of like the company we keep.
Yes.
Because we can choose to surround ourselves with people who lift us up and inspire us and encourage that positive growth.
Absolutely, yeah, and it goes beyond just the people we spend time with. It's also about the information we consume, the stories we tell ourselves, and the things we choose to focus on.
Which brings us back to, that question Jason and Anna had at the end of their podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Like that one about identifying one area in our lives where a more positive outlook could make a real difference.
That's a great question. I mean, for all of us to really ponder.
For sure.
What about you?
What about me?
Yeah, where do you see the most potential for positive change in your own life?
I've been thinking about that, and I think for me, it's my approach to challenges.
Okay.
Sometimes my default mode is to get overwhelmed and focus on everything that could go wrong.
Yeah.
But what if I approach those challenges with like a sense of curiosity and possibility?
I love that. That's a great reframe.
Yeah.
It's like you're shifting from a mindset of fear and limitation to a mindset of growth and opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I used to think that positive thinking was all about like denying those negative thoughts.
Right.
But I'm realizing now that it's more about like acknowledging them, but then choosing to focus on something more empowering.
That's a really powerful insight.
Yeah.
What about you? Is there any area in your life that you think could benefit from a more positive outlook?
Yeah, for me, I think it's in my creative pursuits.
Okay.
I have this tendency to like get really bogged down by self-doubt.
Yeah.
It's like I'm constantly second-guessing myself and my abilities.
I think a lot of creative people struggle with that.
Do they really?
Yeah, it's very common.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
But hearing that story about Alex,
Oh, right.
The student who used affirmations to overcome his self-esteem issues,
Yeah.
has really inspired me.
He's a great example of how we can literally reprogram our minds
Yeah.
to focus on our strengths and our potential.
Yeah, instead of like feeding that self-doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can choose to nourish that voice of confidence and belief.
Yeah, so I'm going to start incorporating those affirmations.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm going to visualize myself succeeding in those creative endeavors.
I love it.
I'm going to make it happen.
You got this. I have no doubt.
Thanks.
And remember, those small, consistent steps can lead to really incredible transformations over time.
Right. You don't have to be perfect.
You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep moving forward.
Keep going.
Even if it's just one tiny step at a time.
Yeah, and I think that's like a really powerful message for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Whether you're struggling with self-doubt, negativity, or you're just feeling a bit stuck, remember that you have the power to choose your thoughts and shape your reality.
You do.
It's not always easy.
It's not. It's a practice.
But it's possible.
It is. It definitely is.
And as Jason and Anna reminded us, even small shifts in our thinking can lead to big changes in our lives.
Absolutely. So be kind to yourself, practice those positive thinking techniques, and just watch as your world starts to transform.
This has been such a great deep dive into the power of positive thinking.
It has.
They're really inspired and ready to put these principles into action.
Me too. And we hope you feel the same way.
Yeah.
Remember, positivity is a choice.
It is.
And it's a choice that we can make every single day.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
Yes. Thank you.
We hope you learned something new, and we hope you're feeling empowered to create a more positive and fulfilling life for yourself.
Absolutely.
Till next time, stay curious, stay positive, and keep believing in the power of possibility.